what is up? We are back with season 2 of the podcast, Spiritual Roundtable, with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And it's about to get turned up a couple notches this season. Buckle up. We're back to what we do best: devil's advocate, expansive thinking, highlighting triggers and laughter, and so much more. Join us as we embark on a journey of unlocking spiritual potential. As always, we promise to give you what you need and only sometimes what you want. Let's get going, B. If you are listening to this podcast, whether it be the first time and this is the first one you're tuning into, or you've been a long-time listener, either from the beginning of season 2 or even the beginning of season 1, and you may be thinking to yourself that you have abilities, or maybe you know you have abilities, and your biggest question is like, but where do I go from there? Because I feel like when we sit down with a lot of people, especially in private sessions, and we're doing development or some sort of self-discovery and we're working through things, the biggest thing that comes up is like, well, I know I can do this kinda, but what? That is what everybody always asks us. Well, I think I can, see dead people, or I think I can talk to my guides, and then the biggest question is like, so then what do I do? And my team just seems really adamant right now about wanting to kind of delve into the idea of practice and maybe some of the steps to go on when you practice, maybe how to practice. I don't really want to talk into too much of like what to expect, because I feel like then you paint too much of a picture and then people get so rigid. If they don't experience that, then they're doing it wrong or it didn't happen. And I just feel like that can be more damaging than helpful. So I'm not going to tell you what to expect, but we're definitely going to get into the idea of, so you think you have abilities and now what? Because you want to expand them, you want to develop them, you want to get comfortable with them. And I think that's just where we're going to take it today. Does that make sense, Keys?
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm gonna let you go first, because I want to pose a different way. I just want to pose a different way, but I don't want to do it till I always got to pose a different way of something.
So my team is really heavy on the idea that your humanness is not separate from your abilities. And I know that a lot of people struggle with that because they feel their abilities is soul tied to the essence of who they are. And it really is. However, your abilities uses your senses, and your senses, hearing, sight, physical sensations, body touches, taste, like all of those things are your humanness. It's your physical vessel having an experience. Even when they're using some sort of clairaudience or, clairvoyance, they're using your mind and your mind's eye. That's still your humanness. That's still your brain, because it's your experiences. It's the things that you've either seen, lived through, talked about, have explored knowledge in, all those things. So my team is a big adversary and a big proponent of the idea of who you are as a person is very interwoven into who and how your abilities will not only appear, but develop and how they will show up. And the biggest thing that they're harping on right now is the idea of, are you a listener to respond, or are you a listener to receive? And they have been just whacking it all day long about the idea of, if you sit down and try to ask a question, no matter how simple, if you are somebody who isn't a listener to respond, you will find yourself listening to respond with your team or with spirit or with God or whoever you're posing the question to, your passed on loved one. It doesn't matter who you're dealing with, but you're going to find the idea of your ego mind forming an answer for you rather than you being patient and receiving the correct answer from spirit, because spirit's never wrong. And I just feel like that's really important.
The way that you touched on humanness also made me want to say that the lens in which you perceive through is the frequency that you're tuned into. Do not compare what you think your abilities or your abilities to be based on what someone else is telling you or what their experience is. Because like you just said, B, you're filtering through your experience. You are the presence behind what you're feeling, what input you're getting. You are the presence behind it. But what you're tuned into and the lens that you're filtering through is going to play heavily into your abilities.
And I don't compare anymore. And I know that everyone says, "Oh, I don't compare." No, no, no. But what I'm talking about is I don't look to my left and go, "I'm seeing this. How is it looking for you?" Because that doesn't mean that what I'm seeing is wrong. And I feel like I want to almost debunk that
But
because
that's
I
not
know a
what
lot of
this is,
times.
right? Like
Yeah.
you, because you're a medium. You can see things in a certain way, right? And it doesn't
Mhm.
scare. If somebody is filtering through the lens of fear, they could pick up on the same thing that you are picking up on, yet they are filtering it through fear, and now they're afraid of it.
And it's just, yeah, and it's just one of those things with my spirits, my guides, my team, like they work in a way that works for me. So they will pick up on what I get easily, and they're going to use things that I get easily. Like, I'm a big movie buff. I can't tell you how many times they give me a movie clip rather than somebody's actual memory sometimes. Now, not always, but definitely in the beginning, I was getting a lot of flash films of being like, I don't know why I'm seeing Anchorman right now, or I don't know why I'm seeing the beginning of that movie and the building looks like this, and we're walking down the street and it's like 40s and it's but like, and I like describing the scene because I have nothing else to do besides describe what I'm seeing. Like, but that may not be how it shows up for the person next to me. And I don't a lot of times we get stuck on, am I right? And we think if it doesn't match somebody else, then we're wrong. And I feel like that is the most damaging way to think,
Yes.
because I know me and you have picked up on the exact same energy, the exact same person, because you brought up mediumship, right? Like the exact same person, and they're trying to get across the same thing to especially when we were in a dual session.
Yes.
Sometimes if Keys is talking and the person's kind of in my mind is talking to me, right? And if Keys is still talking and they feel like I'm not interrupting because I'm not an interrupter. So it's like if I'm not interrupting and cutting what Keys is talking about in her channel, sometimes they will jump over to Keys to get heard faster. And it's hysterical because I will literally be like waiting patiently, just waiting for her to take a breath because what she fucking has to say is important. The person needs to hear it. And then all of a sudden, Grandpa Joe jumps across like to go sit in her energy because clearly she has the microphone in the moment. And then I'm literally like, no, Grandpa Joe, damn it. Like, and then we're literally just laughing because I was like, well, I was just waiting, but apparently he was impatient and blah, 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 blah. And it's just really funny because even though it's the same person and we're relaying the same things, we get it in a different way. And it
Yes.
doesn't always look the same way. And I may get an image and she may get words, or she may get an image and I may get words, or it could be an image, but it just looks different. But the core of the image is being relayed, and that's all that matters. So I feel like sometimes, especially when you're trying to work with a partner or a buddy, when you're trying to practice, you get too concerned with mirroring and matching to a T the thing that your partner is picking up on for whatever reason. And I noticed this very early in my development. For whatever reason, I felt like if I didn't get every detail as the other person, then I was the one who was wrong. And never for a moment, never did I stop and go, oh, I think the other person's wrong because that's not what I'm seeing. I never did that. I always was like, oh, nope, I must be wrong because I didn't get, the fact that the ball had stripes on it, but they can see a striped ball. I only got a circle. What the hell? Like, and I'll be doing this whole battle. You are then turning on your kicking, like your thinking brain, and you're hindering yourself. It may not, it doesn't feel good to practice in that sense. It doesn't feel good to practice in the comparison sense.
But when you just say that, you have to think about that because we always tie things back to like your nervous system, right? If your nervous system kicks on, you're now in fight or flight. You're now filtering through the fear of being wrong. And so something that I personally do when I'm working like one-on-one with somebody is I try to initially kind of like disrupt, not the idea of abilities, but I say, okay, so before somebody brought to your awareness that this is considered an ability, right? You were innately doing this countless times in your life until you popped over here, and we're just going to call over here spirituality for lack of a better word. But I want people to think about just simple things. When you were driving to the store and your gut told you, you know what, let's go the long way around. Or you walked in a room and somebody just like gave you off vibes and you left. Or you actually trusted yourself. You listened. Nobody told them they were your abilities. You might have just been like, oh, it's my sixth sense, oh, it's my spidey senses, oh, it's my intuition. You may have not called it anything, but you trusted it. You weren't practicing it because that's your real life experience. And so the way that like I want to piggyback that and like bring it back to what you were saying is your guides, your team, the universe, God, source, spirit, creator, whatever your understanding is going to filter things through your experiences so it makes sense to you. So when they give you something, right, you have to trust in it enough to just say it, not think about it, not dissect it, not like what you just said, not go, oh my God, well, like I saw a circle, but they see a ball with stripes. Okay, great. Same thing, right? It's going to end up coming out as the same thing. But the second your human switch kicks on and tries to identify, categorize, seek, separate, and try to find that difference, you've now basically just interrupted your channel. What you're picking up on, what you're tuning into, your humanness or your nervous system just disrupted your channel because you're afraid of being wrong. So I always try to take people back to that starting point before somebody told you it was your abilities and you trusted it innately. Why do you not trust it now that it has a new name or it's wrapped up different? Like you always say, B, like connection is your birthright. You were born with this. You've always been connected. It's just expressed itself in different ways that you didn't call it something, but you trusted in it. So when it comes time to quote unquote sit down and now you want to formally practice something, right? You have to stay rooted in that trust that you trusted in before somebody told you it was an ability. And now you want to expand and do something with it.
Well, and it really comes down to the idea that the longer we hold on to something in our mind, it changes.
Yes, it
Like,
starts.
it's just a mental neurological thing, and science will tell you even memories, which I always found so interesting, even memories scientifically, they say every time you recall a memory, you change it slightly when
Yes,
you replay it.
correct.
Now, you could be adding to it, you could be taking away, you could be making the colors more vibrant, you could be whatever it is, but you're changing something slightly every time you replay a memory according to science. So think about just how powerful your brain is, right? So if you were to be given something, with your upper Dantean clairs, right? Clairaudience, clair, sentient, clair, whatever, like most of them happen in the upper Dantean range of things. Um, so that's more often when people are like, "Oh, I'm trying to work with something." A lot of times people focus so much on their ears because they're trying to hear it that they kind of shut themselves off to other things. But we'll get there in a second. But let's just say like we're trying to, audibly hear something, and let's say you ask like I don't know something really simple, right? Like how many cats are there in the room, right? And you're just trying to like auditorily, you're giving you something simple that you can prove to yourself by going around and counting how many cats are in your room, right? Close the door, you sat down, you didn't look beforehand, you go, how many cats are in the room, you know? And you wait and you wait and you wait for an answer, you get four. And you're like, I don't know. I think I saw one run up the stairs. Four. Okay, let me ask again because I don't really know if I understand four. And they're like, oh, and then you get five. And you're like, oh, wait, is it four or is it five? Five's too much. I don't even own five cats. What's going on now? Let me ask a third time. Oh, four. Now we're back to four. So is it four or is it five? And then you're sitting there going absolutely bonkers because you are holding on to the answer so hard while also not believing it, which is a struggle that I feel like a lot of people go over, especially when you put them in the hot seat. They're so worried about how they come across, if they're being real, if they're lying, if they actually have an ability, and what that would be like if they're just crazy and you don't have an ability. Like, that's a huge fear. So it's like all of that's running through your subconscious. But now because the spotlight's on you, whether anybody's physically in the room or not, you are putting pressure on you. Anytime anyone ever practices, there's always some semblance of pressure. And then you add another person you're practicing in front of or next to. Wild, right? That type of holding on to the answer and thinking about it, you are kicking on your thinking brain. You're ruminating. You are now kicking on your ego versus your listening skills. So one requires your brain to slow down out of thinking in order to receive an answer, creating space for spirit to engage with you. Once you get into a high functioning brain state, you know, up into either average thinking or even, accelerated thinking, the idea is in many spiritual communities that you're actually blocking the flow of spirit being able to communicate with you because your mind is so rapid fire. You're not creating space for you to receive something. So think about like your mailbox, right? Every thought, let's put a letter in the mailbox. Now I have 12 thoughts, the mailbox is almost full. Now I add 20 more thoughts, the mailbox is really full. Where is spirit going to put their letter? Not in your mailbox. No way. Like, and that's the idea, is that the more thoughts you have and the more attention you place on your own thoughts, the more you clutter your mailbox to receive a message or an answer or something like that. So a lot of times holding on to and thinking, you're creating your own mind to start its own human monologue. You're not giving the soul in you, your spirit, your team, the ability to just have a clean slate to work with, because now they have to bust through and almost break you talking to yourself. So the best advice that I could give to anybody, and I'm not saying that it was easy for me when I was practicing, because I definitely had this struggle when I was first beginning 1,000%. But once it clicks, it clicks. Like, spirit is never wrong. Your job is not to create the answer. You don't have to find the answer. Spirit will give you the answer. You just have to be patient.
Yes.
And it may look like sitting for 20 minutes and then nothing. And it may look like sitting for 2 seconds and there's your answer. It doesn't necessarily matter the length of time, but the idea is that when you get the answer, trust it, whatever it is. Because I can't tell you how many times I've asked a question, especially when I'm practicing, and the answer I'm given is correct, but I asked the question unintentionally vaguely. So let's go back to the cats thing. Like when I said, how many cats are in the room? You know that you were maybe talking about alive, physical cat animals.
Sure.
But what happens if there's 4 alive cats, but you have a giant statue of a cat making it 5 cats? Now, I know that that sounds a little weird, and you're like, oh, you're stretching it, but maybe not, because it really depends on your team. Because sometimes your team is also testing you in a weird freaking way, to where they're like, are you going to accept the unlikely answer? The answer that goes against what your brain wants to give you as an answer.
But what do I always like? I know we've had this conversation on our own, but like when you're doing quote unquote practice or you know what I mean? You're focusing on your awareness or, but you're drowning out the background noise. You're not meant to make logic of it. The second you start
Yep.
trying to make logic, you've already interrupted again what you're doing. Because that's the thing. Your logic is telling you living cats versus figurines versus this. Your question was how many cats?
And you're judging the answer. You're going, I
Judging
don't know if 4 is right. I don't know if 5 is right. That's not the point. You shouldn't judge the answer. I completely agree with you. The answer is the answer. Yep.
And I think I don't even want to pose a question. It just makes me think of stuff that like we talk about and the way maybe we do things. But for me, I'll say for me, feel free to piggyback off this too. The ability to get yourself into a meditative state without it taking 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, you know what I mean? Like in linear time, that's when it happens. For me, that's when it happens. I can tune out that fast to everything around me, and I know you can. So that's why I'm speaking to myself. But that's the difference. But I mean that legitimately. Because you will watch, if you've ever watched one of us, whether it's live, whether you've had a private space with us, whether you've watched our videos, you will watch us in real time in the duration of a 1 or 2 minute video, go into channel and drown everything out around us. Everything out around us. You'll watch our eyes because both of our eyes do things when we're in channel. But that's the thing. You're literally taking yourself into a meditative state where you're basically like, and I always say it this way, and this might, whatever, you're piercing the veil. Your veil being your nervous system. That's what you're doing in meditation. You're detaching from it. You're detaching from it. The thoughts, because the mind goes where the nervous system leads it, and you're detaching from it. You are just you're letting everything around you just be without thinking, without dissecting, without anything. And then when it comes in, it just hits you. So when you ask the question, it's all already there. Like you just said, so many people are seeking an answer, not realizing it's already right there. They're just not necessarily tuning into it because their logic or their need to make sense of gets in the way.
Well, and that's the difference. One places all the responsibility on you to create the answer, and the other one puts the responsibility on spirit. And once you learn that the responsibility is not on you to find, to locate, to create the answer, everything changes. Like, I can't stress that enough. If you have gotten to this point, everything changes when you realize that you are not the creator of the answer. Has nothing to do with you. You are the in between.
Yes.
Spirit already has the answer. God already has the answer. Your team already has the answer. You just have to be willing to literally put what you think the answer is going to be, or even the thought that you won't get an answer, aside. Because so many times it's that requisite pre-notion. You're like, well, I suck, it's not gonna work. When I sit down, I get nothing, it's silent. You are just prepping your mind, your subconscious, and every cell in your body to actively not seek an answer, and even when it's in front of you, to be like, I hear, I see, I feel nothing. You are priming yourself for that type of an experience. So don't be surprised after you say something like that, that you have a less than stellar practice.
That also makes me want to say this. So many people put pressure on themselves, at least people that I've worked with. That's how I want to say that. Because they think that they're supposed to predict the future. And I want to tell you, the second that you collapse that, because if you've ever heard myself or Erica say anything, it's that we don't predict the future. We're not here to predict the future because the only thing that exists is right now. So the second I'm done tuning into you or whatever you're asking, you have the ability to bend and change the trajectory of whatever happens after I answer, quote unquote, answer your question or tap in or feel in or give guidance on, right? Or tell you what I'm picking up in my awareness. I can't hesitate, I mean, I can't emphasize enough. You are never predicting someone's future because they are their next step. They are their shift. They are their timeline. They are the next thing that is happening and it unfolds with them. So you can pick up what they're tuning into. And as a result of that, you can start seeing things in images. You can start smelling things. You can start feeling things. You eat all of the things, right? Seeing things. The moment that you are not tuning into it anymore, it has the ability to shift and change. There is no getting it wrong. And I'm putting wrong in air quotes for anybody who can't see that. When you understand you are only tuning into right now.
And I want to I want to tell somebody that the other part of it is really surrender and acceptance.
Yes.
And everybody talks about surrender, and then I feel like it takes this weird other life form energy when people talk about it in spirituality. Like, it just gets really odd. And it's not surrendering to your fate per se. It's not surrendering that you have no control. Like, no, that's not the kind of surrender. It's more the acceptance part of being like, okay. So I feel like when people begin to practice, one, keep your practice sessions short. And I mean it, because you want to start on a good note and end on a good note. Once you get frustrated and you start belittling yourself and you start feeling sorry for yourself, you have destroyed your practice and it's not practice anymore. it's actually harmful to yourself, to your self-image, to your self-value, to all of those things. So I would rather see you practice for 5 minutes every other day, every day, twice a day, than sit down for an hour once a week and make yourself feel miserable. So,
I,
like, if you have the ability, practice very, very, very short periods of time because you wanna build your confidence. Think about it like you're training a dog or you're training, a horse or something. Like, you want everything to be a very positive experience. We want you to look forward to practicing. We want you to be building an exciting relationship with your team, spirit, your ancestors, whatever you are choosing to practice with God. It doesn't matter what it is. But you wanna build a good relationship. You wanna look forward to doing it. Like, the next time you go to sit down, the next time you go to take some time. So make sure that you're doing something that is, 1, manageable for you, but have, I always say realistic expectations, but better yet, no expectations. Because if I can go in with no outcome present and just allow it to be what it is, you'll be better off because then you won't be creating disappointment for yourself.
I know a foundation for both you and I kind of want to do like a short little story time for a second because I know I know you've had this experience too. When you sit down and practice, like you just said, it's about accepting what you get and trusting what you get. And if you want to know and gauge where you stand, do you walk back what you get because someone tells you it doesn't resonate or that's not right or blah, blah, blah? Okay. Because I'm just like you said, you have to be willing to receive, open to receiving without trying to make logic of it. And the reason I say that is because sometimes when you practice, if you're a reader, whatever you do, if you're a medium, some people that you will work with are not open to receiving. They are not open to receiving what you're sharing or what you're picking up on because they're filtering it through something else. And the reason I say that is because, and I'm just going to call it formal practice and formal abilities because I learned that I'd been innately doing a lot of these things most of my existence that I can recall. And then somebody told me,
And
oh
I
my
can guarantee you that many people listening, you're the same way.
goodness. Until
Yeah.
somebody was like, oh, you're claircognizant or you're I'm like, I'm what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in the moment, I'm like, excuse me, I'm what? And then, I go and look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, like I've definitely been doing that my whole life, right? Like as far back as I can remember, childhood, adulthood, whatever, right? But my point is this, somebody who brought that to my awareness then proceeded to give me a very good piece of advice that was, they later contradicted, but still gave me a very good piece of advice that I had like carried with me. And that is you always have to trust what you get. You have to trust what you get because if you switch up because of what someone else says, then you do not trust yourself. You do not trust in your abilities and you do not trust in what you know. You believe in something and the second that belief is questioned, now you just fall apart, right? And so when I say that, same person who gave me the advice was also somebody who was like, hey, can you throw cards for me? Or can you do this for me? Or can you do that for me? And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, well, I haven't, I don't have a lot of practice at this, right? But absolutely. So the whole time, all I told myself was, remember what they said. All you got to do is trust yourself, right? And I did. And at the end of it, I was super proud of myself. I felt really good. Like I knew in my soul, in my nest, in everything that like I did not filter through my humanness. It came out, you know what I mean? It came out way too fast, too much in channel, I mean, not too much in a bad way, but in a way that like I was not filtering through my humanness whatsoever. The same person who told me to trust myself was also the same person who was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And that doesn't this and that doesn't that. And I remember sitting there and I just said, like, don't know what to tell you because that's what I was shown. That's the exact way it came in. And that's just what I got. So if it doesn't resonate, then it doesn't resonate. Right. And I left it at that. Done. Sayonara, whatever. About an hour, maybe not even an hour later, I get a text going, oh, I had some time to think about it. Like basically they had some time to, marinate, reflect, and receive what I said. They might not have liked the way it was delivered, which is fine because I don't give a shit. Anybody knows me knows I don't give a shit.
But
But
that wasn't a paid client. Like, that's what made it even
no, it
funnier.
wasn't a
That was
paid.
just a friend.
It
You were just
wasn't even
helping
when we
somebody
were
out.
in, it wasn't even
Yeah.
when we were in
Yeah.
business. So
No,
like
yeah, it was
help
just a
someone
friend.
else
Yeah.
somebody. So when I say
Mm,
I was like, and that's why I said, like, it was a friend. So put
yep.
that in perspective. Like, it's a friend, it's a teacher, it's a mentor, all these things, right? And like, I just stayed rooted in that principle of you have to trust what you get, and I did. And then within an hour, like I said, I get a phone call or a text message going, "Hey, I had some time to think about it, and like, it makes sense. Like, I get what they were showing you now. You just saw it a different way than like I was processing it as you were saying." And I'm just like, great. I'm glad it ended up resonating. But at the end of the day, like when I say this to people, I was legitimately unfazed. I
Well,
legitimately in that
that's the
moment
important part though,
was
because you didn't take it personal. And I
nope.
feel like in the beginning, a lot of
Yeah,
people take it very personal
yes.
when they get something wrong or someone doesn't appreciate it or it doesn't land the way that they're hoping it does. Or
Or you
I'm going
trigger
to tell
them.
you
I'm
that
sorry. I'll say, or you trigger them.
your abilities isn't, I don't know how to say this in a way that's going to make sense. But if you are doing it so that you can get self kudos, don't
Correct.
do this for a living. And
No.
I don't mean to discourage anybody, but I feel great when I read for somebody most of the time. When I, can help somebody or I sit down with a private client, I usually end up walking away feeling good because whatever needs to be relayed, I know was relayed. And that makes me feel good just being able to honestly help people, you know? But I don't do it for the applause. If I did it for the applause, I would still be waiting for my applause. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like that can't be my only
No.
drive is to get what's that called? Like to get notoriety from it or to, get famous or something silly. Like that's not my goal. But if you are very self-conscious, work out your self-consciousness first. And I mean that with all the love, work it out first. Do your self-discovery, do your self-worthy, do your self-acceptance, do all of that first because that insecurity will trickle into your abilities. Your humanness is part of your abilities. So that human part of you that doesn't feel good enough, that still wants to be seen and is fighting to be valued by somebody, will trickle into your abilities. When somebody goes, if I were to relay something and someone goes, "No, that doesn't make any sense." I don't sit there and go, "Shit, I fucked up." You
No.
can't do that
Nope.
because guess what? I didn't make the message. And if
Nope.
you know, like we talked about earlier, that you don't make the message, you just relay it. So if
Yep.
they told you big red ball and you go, they're saying big red ball, and the lady's like, "I don't own a big red ball. I don't know what you're talking about." And you go, "Okay, it's not me who needs to now figure out how that fits for her." I literally go back to spirit and go, make it make sense. What do you want me to say next? Because that's for them to make sense.
Correct.
Has to say it in a way that they know that person will pick up on it, that it'll make sense for them. I don't need to create the gap. I don't need to create the bridge. I don't need to make it better. I also don't need to take it personal. I heard big red ball. I said big red ball. I have no qualms. I said what I heard. Now, if they said like something different, if they said dodgeball and I got scared and I said big red ball, that's on me because I didn't say what they said. I relayed whatever my ego told me to relay. So that's where it's like, if you're going to say you trust spirit, you have to trust them in relaying things exactly the way that they say it or exactly the way that they show it to you and realize that it doesn't need to make sense to you. It doesn't, not in the moment. It'll make sense later. If there's a takeaway for you, fantastic. But a lot of times people take things so personal, especially in the beginning. They feel like somehow it makes them a bad person or it makes them seem silly or crazy. I get that a lot. Like, I feel crazy. I feel this. I feel dumb if I can't do it. Like, stop, stop. Trust spirit. Spirit's not going to make you look stupid. And you say it all the time, Keys. Like, spirit's not going to drop you. Spirit's not going to like leave you out to dry. They're not going to hang you, on the porch for everyone to see. They're not. So if you're saying you trust spirit, then you need to trust them 100%. And if you're saying that you're not in the driver's seat, you can't then take over the wheel of the driver's seat when something goes wrong, right? It doesn't make sense. If I'm in the passenger seat and something goes wrong, I then can't be like, switch seats with me and then take the blame. That's not how that works.
Nope.
Like, so a lot of it is having that just reminding yourself that it's not my idea. It's not my job to make things fit. It's not my job to create an answer. And it's not my job to have somebody accept what I say. At
Yep.
no point in time did I agree to any three of those things.
Nope.
So when you're practicing, it's the same thing. The second spirit says it, okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then relay it. If you're practicing with yourself, okay, great, got it. I tell people to write shit down. That's why you practice in short periods of time, because like my team really keeps bringing it back to this as we're doing the podcast, is like a calculator. So just stay with me here, guys. Like, why is it we trust the answer from a calculator and we don't have to get out a pad and paper and do the calculation ourselves? 3,000 times whatever, and the answer's boom right there in a split second. Not once do we go, calculator's wrong.
Correct.
Not once, not even once. But for some reason, we get an answer from spirit. We're like, guys, I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. Like,
But it's just that simple, though. Because that's why I always tell people, I'm like, okay, so when you listen to your intuition for 20 years, and I know you and I give this example all the time, like mother's intuition. I'll even love dad's and parents' intuition, right? Let's just talk intuition for your gut. You trust your gut. You can call it whatever you want, but you trusted your gut. You trusted your intuition. You did all these things. And every time you did it, you know what I mean? It was confirmed. I don't care what it was confirmed. I don't care good, bad, preferable, not. It was confirmed. So now that somebody told you this is an ability and gave it a new name, now all of a sudden you can't trust it anymore because now it's dressed up differently. So I'm always like, so what is it? Are you unsure in your abilities, or are you unsure in your trust in yourself? Because I'm going to show you where you trusted yourself 1,000 times over. And I've said this to you before. I know we've had this conversation too, and I'm going to parallel it both ways. Your abilities don't just work for other people and they don't work for you, or they don't just work for you and they don't work for other people. So you can make that fit and apply as you'd like for yourself. But if you legitimately trust in yourself and you trust in your knowing and you don't need proof, you just follow what your gut says, or you just follow that knowing, right? Then why does it change when you're applying it to something outside of you, like, or to someone else? You have to ask yourself that question, because it doesn't switch up. That is your humanness switching up on you. Your knowing or your intuition, it never switches up. Sometimes you hear it better. Sometimes it's more muffled. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's in a regular tone. Very rarely, and I'm going to say this, I say very rarely does my knee yell at me.
now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. We opened up a Get 5, Give 5 program, and it's all for referring friends and family. We know you guys do it. We want to say thank you because we are always seeing you send your trusted people our way. So visit the website and figure out how you can not only get $5 for doing it, but give $5 to your bestie. Visit www.childofbalance.com. There's no end date. So if you want a one-stop shop for private spaces, spiritual guidance and assistance, mediumship, mentorship, private readings, shadow work assistance, it's all there. If you are looking for a free tree of knowledge where you can learn esoteric wisdoms, breath work, you can learn about yourself, cultures, spiritual hygiene, spiritual practices, spiritual traditions, and you can just learn about almost anything under the sun spiritual for 100% free, check out the website. And you should become a member. If you're not already a member, www.childofbalance.com. It's 100% free. It'll never cost you money. We would never charge you money. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com. Well, it's like sometimes I just feel like, because they keep bringing me back to this damn calculator. Like, I just keep feeling like
Because you can
a lot
see
of times people will be like, oh, well, I need to prove it to myself first. And it's like, that's fine. If that's your humanness and you need to prove it to yourself first, then go do it. But create an environment that you can prove it to yourself. But then once you prove it to yourself, you have to believe it, because guess what? I get that logic. I understand it. They're like, well, I just want to like be 100% certain that that's what that feeling is. Great. But guess what? It takes some sort of a beginning step to trust yourself, to trust that, to be like, okay, great. I proved it to myself. Fantastic. So you can do a lot of little things. Like I said, sit down for a short period of time and then write down your question, write down your answer, and then go do something else and allow it to unfold, allow it to prove itself. Or better yet, look back in your life and be like, when did I feel like something was going this? And then when did it actually end up happening? Because chances are you probably proved it to yourself a million times that your intuition's on point.
You are
You
the
just
proof.
haven't compiled it.
That's what I was telling people, but you are the proof. Everybody's always so busy looking for that external proof, like you said, the calculator. They're looking to prove something to themselves. You're trying to prove it to your humanness. Because if you can realize that you aren't separate from the proof, the second you felt something or you picked up on something, and then it was confirmed, you are the proof. You have experienced it. You have experienced the proof. So what is it that you're proving? Now you're just unsure about something. So you think you need proof before you can move. You think you need proof before you can decide. You think you need proof before your abilities are good enough. Not realizing you're the proof the whole time. Because that's the thing. You're either proving your belief in something or you're proving your knowing. Regardless, it's still proof of something.
Yeah, and like I just know so many people want that physical, I want to call it relief, like that physical relief of knowing that you're
They want
100% on
the
point.
world and they want physical proof. Make it make sense.
But it's just like I understand that though. Like I get that from a development standpoint of being like you just want to be a good steward and you want to be like, okay, cool, and you want to get better. So whatever you feel like your kinks are, you want to work them out. I get that. But it's like write it down then. Like write down everything that you felt one time and then write down when it actually happened and you were on point. And then notice that you have probably several pages of that. And then you have to tell yourself like, oh shit, that's enough. Like, how many times does it need to be reproven? You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you need to pretend? Because that's really what you're doing. You're pretending that, oh, you wrong. But you're not, though, because here's 4 pages when you were 100% spot on. The only thing that you got wrong was probably your timing because you saw it, you thought it was going to happen like the
You've
next
already,
second.
you're not creating the answer because it all already exists. You're picking up on, if you are working with someone else, you're picking up on what they are tuned into.
Yeah. But it just gets down to one of those things like when you practice, because I don't want to make it like a theological, like a theory kind of a debate. Like I want to keep it very practical in the sense of being like when you're trying to practice and you're just learning, please do those steps. It's small practice moments. And then whatever you get, I want you to just say okay. I don't give a shit if it's proven wrong 5 seconds later. Just say okay. Get used to saying okay with every fucking answer you get. Because guess what? If you say okay to the wrong answer and you leave it alone, I swear to goodness, God, Jesus, on a bicycle, will come and mow you down and tell you that's the wrong answer. You will get a feeling 5 seconds later after you put it down, like that's not the right answer. That's not the right answer. Oh, I don't know. It's this answer. And you go end up going back and being like, oh, just kidding. The answer's 7. I don't know what I was doing. And guess what? That'll be correct. But you have to give it time. Like, I don't know how to make that make sense because every time that I have been like, okay, and moved on with my life and done whatever else, go live the day, go whatever. If you got it wrong and your team wants you to know you got it wrong, they're not going to give up. It's going to keep popping in your head. You're going to keep getting this gut feeling. You're going to keep seeing the number. They're going to hit you with it, whatever it is. They're going to get your attention with it all over again. But it's only when we sit there and we like cloud everything that we don't receive very well, you know?
But
So
see,
it's
to
like
me,
if you guys can
when
get
you
into
accept
doing
what you're
that,
given, when you actually accept what you're given, so if you're making this list, like you say, and you accept what you're given, then you're not thinking about it. You either
yep.
believe something or you know something. If you accept what you're given, if you accept what you're given, then you know that to be true. It will change if you're wavering. Then you don't know it. You're not rooted in trust. You're not rooted in your abilities. You don't believe or know what you claim to do because you're wavering. If you
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. So I was talking about more like you turned your brain off and maybe you originally wrote down the first answer that came to you, but maybe you actually weren't patient in your session, and the first answer that came to you was you creating an answer. But then when you left it alone, you turn your thinking brain off about that topic, and then you actually created space accidentally, not intentionally, for spirit to actually relay to you the message, the answer. So I was talking about it more like, even if the answer that you say okay with, your first answer, right? And then you get it, you get nagged about it. Like, if you are not, like you just said, if you're not actively thinking about it, please know that anything that comes in and bothers the shit out of you is spirit and not your own brain. Like, how many times have we talked about something, put it aside, and then you're going on with a different activity, and then all of a sudden you get hit with shit. And you're like, what the fuck? This
I
came out of
think you
nowhere.
gotta say that differently, because if you're an overthinker, that's a no. If you're an overthinker and you just said if it just keeps coming back in your mind, no.
When you're not thinking
If it
about it,
keeps
like if
getting your
it inserts
attention
itself.
when you're doing something completely different and you're not thinking about it. So you're
Yes.
minding your own business and you're making dinner and you're talking on the phone and you're doing this and that, and then something comes in and hits
Yes.
you. That's you not thinking about it. That's you not being
Yes.
quote unquote overthinking, looking for confirmational bias. If you are replaying in your mind over and over and over again what you were practicing,
Yeah.
that's
No
when
one's talking about replaying. No, no. We're talking about you moved on with your fucking day. Then whatever comes in is spirit. That's what I'm saying. So no matter what the hell you get, just say yes to it.
yeah, that's why I was like, let's just bring that not for the overthink.
Yeah. But that's the whole point. The idea is that once practice is over, it's over. You're
Correct.
not ruminating on it. You're not thinking about it. You're not placing any more attention on it of your own free will, is the way that I want to say that. Like, I'm not going to get up from practice and then go do laundry and then do nothing but think about practice. No, no, no. It's over with. Like, because the balance is really important between when you're doing practice or you're doing spiritual things or you're working on yourself, and then when you're just being human. Like, the human part of your life is really important. So you have to start generating an on-off switch. There's a time to play with your abilities, and then there's a time to not play with your abilities. And the number one thing that I find a lot of people developing is they don't actually have an on-off switch. And then the second they go to sit down and the spotlight's on them and they feel like the pressure's on, it's like their switch is broken, and then they pretend they can't turn it on. But then if they were just living their life la-di-da-di-da-di-da, blown open all the time, they would tell you they get shit. The second you go, great, show me, let's sit down. They panic. It's like, you need to
Yes,
create
I
that
look at it
switch.
like, but was the switch ever off? Until somebody points it out to you, was your switch ever off? As a kid, was your switch off? And I don't mean for the people who had the awareness of giving it a label. Was the switch ever off? Or were you so busy as a kid and an adolescent just being present in your present moment that you were just being? That's the thing. I don't think that, I just speak for myself. I don't really sit down and practice. I don't, and that's just me. I know other people do that. I know you do that. I don't sit down and like carve time out of my day to practice. If somebody asks me for something, you know what I mean? In the past, even when was what we didn't do this as a business. If somebody asked me to throw cards, I would throw cards. But I didn't always just like wake up and practice. My practice came from kind of like a request of could I feel into something or this or that.
But to me, dude, that is practice. That is practice, though. Like, you are practicing when a buddy goes, hey,
But
can
I
you
guess
do
I
this for
don't
me?
call it that. I just call it being. I guess I just
But
call it
you
like
just practice by
like
doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you didn't set, like, regardless of whether you set a time aside and you go, on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I'm going to sit, like, or you just go, hey, and you're open to giving it a shot. Giving it a shot is practicing. I don't care what anyone says. You're doing the motion and you're giving it your all. The difference that you don't put pressure on yourself when you do it is beside the point. You're still practicing.
but that's why I'll just respectfully disagree because I don't have to practice being me. I don't have to practice,
Motherfucker, everything is practicing.
but it's not.
Every time, everything is
That's
practicing.
separating it. That's going, I need to
Everything
do
is
this
practicing.
instead of just exist. I
No,
need to do this
everything's
and to
practicing.
tune into this. If I'm tuning into my abilities, I am just being present right now in this filter. I'm not practicing it. I'm just being it. That's just
And
me.
the
That's
more
what-
you
that's just
do it,
my-
it's learned practice. It's like as if you were on a job and you learned through doing the job. You're practicing while you're doing. It's the same thing.
I'm just experiencing.
Yeah. You're
So
learning through
if I
experience,
go out and throw the
practice.
so if I go out and throw the softball with my dad, I'm just getting more experience at pitching. I'm just getting more experience at batting, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just being present,
You're practicing.
doing something. But I'm not going to call it that because I don't have to practice being me. That's why I said I'll respectfully disagree, but I don't need to practice being me. And I don't need
Okay.
to
So guys, when I'm saying practice, it's the act of doing. So anytime you are actively doing it, you are practicing it. That's the
yeah,
idea. Yeah. Think about religion. When you're practicing a religion, you're doing it. It's the same fucking thing. So when you're practicing, so when I'm saying practicing your abilities, that means you are actively doing it. You're giving it a shot. The difference with the idea of practicing and the way that Keys is talking about it is she's not calling it a subsection of like you need to practice before you can do. I get it. You can just do it.
just
Like
be.
it's the same thing.
Because
Yeah.
it's the same thing we're saying. We're disconnecting from all of the outside and we're just being present. We're being present and we're tuning in to what is right here, right now. And
Sure.
until and that's what I'm saying. So many people put this pressure on themselves that it has to look like a certain way. We have to carve out this time, like that it's separate from what we're doing. And that's where I was trying to bring it back to. You are avidly always in the state of being something. You don't have to practice being you when you've most likely innately been doing it your entire existence. You are just becoming more confident or trusting in what you're doing or tuning into.
Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website www.childofbalance.com. For those of you who truly appreciate handmade products, we have a handmade shop. Everything is made to order, blessed, saged, and sent out as quick as possible. We have anything from handmade sounds for meditation to herbal blends like bath teas and dump and go specials to road opener mixes to kits and oils and so much more. For those of you who enjoy taking spiritual classes and courses but maybe can't fit it into your busy schedule, we have self-study courses and everything can be found in the handmade shop. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com. Sure.
So that's why I just looked at it like that. If you're just being, and like you said, in that state of you're just tuning in, you're just picking up on, you're highlighting or you're focusing your awareness on one of your filters or abilities in the right now.
Yeah, to me it's just doing it with intention because there's two different kinds of beings, like in the way that I think about it, like the person who just lives their life and their intuition hits them and they trust it as it goes, and then there's the person who wants to intentionally develop their intuition, so they're going to intentionally intend to sit down and place focus and attention on their intuition at any given moment. So even when you are throwing cards with a buddy, in that moment you are placing your intention to your intuition, to your connection, to your spirits, to your cards, to whatever it is that you're working on. You're just putting intention behind it. So it's just not willy-nilly happening, like as if I was folding the laundry and then something just hits me in the side of the face because I need to know it, or I'm just open in the moment. And it's one's more passive and one's more intentional. So I'm talking about the more intentional. Like you want to intentionally work on it, or you want to intentionally call it forward, or begin to do it for whatever reason, whether it be for a friend or yourself, or you want to feel like you can get better at it, more detail, whatever your want is, you're doing it with a purpose and you're doing it with intention versus I'm opened and I know I'm a connected being, so therefore I get random information sometimes. Does that make sense? One's more purposeful, more intentional, and the other one just is a byproduct of existing in a connected world, you know?
Sure.
Bitch.
Well, no, because like I'm just thinking like throughout life, like when I have listened to my intuition, just being, like I'll use bug as an example. When I am just listening, being, existing, picking up on real life situations, and I'm like, no, 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 like my gut is telling me no, and this, and this. I am actively engaging in listening to my intuition. I am advocating with purpose, with intention of speaking up for my child or being their voice. So I guess like that's the way I see it like now is where when somebody told me to put all my focus on I needed to strengthen my intuition. Oh no, 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 no. That actually made me step even further back now and go, but I've always trusted it. I've always existed in this and that. And even in spirituality, when people are like, well, you gotta, you gotta be anchored in your knowing. Okay, great. So you're just living your life anchored in feeling your way through what feels right for you, what you are picking up on. So that's why I said, I guess when I'm just looking at it through my lens, and that's why I said just my lens. It's something I've always done purposefully because when I'm in it, it is with a purpose. That purpose in the moment may change, whether it's for a friend, it's for my child, it's for myself, it's for something else, but it's always purposeful. And I just had to dismantle that need that it needed to be better because it was never broken or not good enough to begin with. It was something I was practicing, if we're going to use practice as the word, my entire existence until somebody said I needed to be better at it for utilizing it for another purpose. When really the practice comes from what? When we practice anything, whether it's intuition, spiritual abilities, a sport, it's to build our confidence and our trust in what we're doing. To trust in our abilities more. So if we're practicing it so that we trust ourselves, we accept this, we're more confident in it versus that there was anything wrong with it to begin with. Because you've been a goddamn good, I'm going to use you. You've been a goddamn good medium your entire existence. Your confidence in your mediumship is why you want to practice or do this or do that. Since I've known you, and that's all I'm going to say, since I have known you, your mediumship abilities are fan-fucking-tastic. You like to feel more confident in them. You like to feel this in them. That is building trust and confidence in something that you have innately done for a very long period of time and are very good at. The way you do it is unique to you. It is not supposed to look like how someone else does it.
I think that that's a big part of it when it just comes to abilities in general, and that's why I was such a big proponent when we first started about not comparing
Yes.
um, abilities because it really does make a difference. Um, and like I know you don't do this either, but like I don't watch mediums, I don't watch tarot card readers, I don't watch um honestly anybody um in spirituality do their thing. um I just don't, so I honestly don't even know what that looks like when somebody does cards or they do it their way. Like I don't even know how they set stuff up. um and then I don't feel the pressure that it needs to look like that. Does that make sense? Like and I'm also not a big proponent for, like you were talking about earlier, like the 20 minutes of meditation and sit down. Like, I don't need a big, personally, where I'm at in my journey, I don't need a big beginning warm up, is what I like call it. Like, I
Correct.
don't need to align all my chakras,
Yeah.
do some releases, meditate with my team, open some wild ass circle. I don't need to do any of that. I believe that spirit's omnipresent. I believe that we are 100% connected. I believe connection is our birthright. We were born connected. So I
Correct.
can't ever be disconnected. So guess what I don't need to do? 20 minutes of meditation in order to hear my guides. Now, do I think that there's a time and a place for meditation? 1,000%. I love meditation, but I don't use it like that. I don't use it as like I need to do this or I can't do this. That's not how I look at it. Um, but I understand that there's a lot of positives to it. So I'm not shying away from any sort of tradition or settling, because it's really all it is to me is it's a settling of your energy, right? It's a settling of your mind. So if you need 3 steps in order to settle your mind, to surrender, to listen,
Yes.
without listening to respond, like, yeah, to listen to receive, then go and do it because it's going to make you better for it. But know that there will be a point in time when you get so confident with your system that you will no longer need to do it. And that's where your practice just has to evolve with you. Because if you're doing it just to do it, you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you don't need it. Your practice should not become so mundane that it's exhausting to you or you even zone out while doing it because that's how commonplace it is, or there's no sense of an emotional or spiritual connection to it anymore. Now we're just going through the motion. Throw it out. So in the beginning, when you're still developing the quiet mind, so to speak, or the, the receiving ship, the surrender, you may have to do a couple more things, maybe not, but some people may find comfort in it. It sets the mood, it sets the tone, it sets the energy. Congratulations. But if you're kind of that weirdo, like kind of me and you were, that we didn't really need all that, and doing that actually made us think more because we had to remember steps. And we were like, oh no, do I do this first? Then I do this. And then what
Correct.
am I doing when I'm forcing myself to remember something? I now have to recall it. And
Yeah.
then if I'm worried about what order I do it in or what this and that, like, then I'm causing myself more harm by thinking, overthinking, like what Keys is
1,000%.
saying, overthinking. So sometimes you don't need that. But I just think it's really important in that I don't watch anything and I know you don't either. So that's why we tell people like, we're going to give you whatever we get and it just is what it is. But we've gotten to that point of development, of trust, of relationship with our spirit, our team, our connection in that sense that we can wing it without winging it. Um I mean, because we've had crazy stuff where appointments will go over 15 minutes and we have like 5 minutes to run to the bathroom and then we like to be on time and we don't ever like to move anybody's appointment. So then we have like 5 minutes in between an appointment. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. We try to schedule
Happens.
buffers, but if somebody needs us longer, somebody needs us longer, and we're not going to cut off spirit and we're going to give it, its full awareness. So
Yes.
but that doesn't it doesn't mess us up. We don't need those time to do it. It's just a little bit of downtime, you know what I mean, that we enjoy
Yeah.
to make sure the house isn't burning and we can go to the bathroom and, get other things out of the way, but disconnect, reconnect. But like technically you can just 5 seconds. I disconnect, boom, I'm disconnected. I'm connecting, boom, I'm connected. Like, and it's more like for me, I think the mediumship just kind of falls slightly different than teams because you're dealing with people's life experience. And if their life experience does not match or mirror your own, you're going to run into what Keys was talking about earlier, your own judgments and your own, like, but that's not right. But that doesn't make any sense. But that, blah, blah, blah. It's not your experience. Um, so a lot of times it's just kind of reminding yourself you're in the passenger seat and you're just passing the letter to the recipient.
Yes.
You're not meant to read the letter, translate it, and get no. You're just handing it over. Like, that's it.
You feel like the telephone game. No, seriously. They have a cup. Spirit, God, source, creator, universe, passed on loved one has the other cup, and you're the string in between. It's just going through you.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like when you used to whisper in people's ears and you're like
No,
12
you're right. When the
bananas and then it would
telephone
come
game
to the
goes
end.
from one cup in the other, you're the string in between. they're saying something or you're picking up on something, it is filtering through you and they are receiving. You're just a go-between. You are
Yep.
neutral. You don't be offended. You don't take it personally. There's no reason to.
Yep. And that's really it though. Like, it doesn't have to be I need to bow 4 times, do the hokey pokey, light 4 candles, hold 3 crystals, open up a massive circle. Like, no. Like, I mean, if you feel like you need it, it'll work because you feel like you need it. But realize anytime you decide you don't need it, you no longer need it. And I know that might confuse somebody, but that's really what it comes
Yeah.
down to, is the fact that if you can get comfortable with minimalistic things, your on-off switch would just be so much faster, because the second you place your intention towards something, that's it. As soon as you shift your mindset from, I don't know, doing laundry to, I want to go talk to spirit, I want to do, that's how fast the transition is actually made within the energy.
Yes.
It's just, we're kind of training ourselves to get out of our own way, like
Yes.
in every other aspect of, like, sense of the word. So I just feel like that's really important. But for anybody who's looking to do that intentional, I want to sit down and practice, small fucking practice sessions. Start on a good note, end on a good note, do a little bit of baby journaling, as detailed and as vague as you want it to be. But that way you can track shit, because it's just fun to look back and be like, I didn't get it at the moment, but 2 months later, I freaking understand what they meant about that. Like, and you'll be able to give yourself that little bit of proof that your humanness might still need, that Spirit's 100% correct. And if you can just trust them to say, relay, write down.
That's it. You just nailed it.
That's
Trust it and accept it. That's what you're practicing. Acceptance and trust.
Yeah. Yep. If you are looking to, like, work with anybody one-on-one, we have a space for that. So feel free to check it out. We try to make things as simple as possible. So just know it's there. We don't mind answering questions for you guys. We can schedule an hour to sit down with you. We can do something like a mentorship or something like that. But we also do spiritual guidance and assistance. So if you just have like one question, or you're getting into a hurdle with one thing and you're like, I just can't seem to get past this, like, that's fine. Come sit with us. We would love to sit with you. Like, we would love to sit with you. So just know that that's always available and open on the website. And that is one of the services that we will never be closing, because the whole idea is to help people. So that spiritual guidance and assistance is literally what that's all for. You bring the topic. What are you struggling with? What do you need assistance with? We got you. That's the whole point.
We got you.
All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Spiritual Roundtable with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And we hope to see you next week for another seat at the roundtable. For anyone else interested in other social medias, the Free Tree of Knowledge, private services, local events, and much more, check out our website, www.childofbalance.com. Until next time, please remember, you are to feel your way through everything. Do not stop, do not make yourself smaller, and always continue to be unapologetically and authentically you, because the world needs more of that.